This is how much we know about movies. We just if you want a raw review of movies, you're getting it right here because we don't know shit.
Dad! Oh, fuck, I don't know, man. Is that like nostalgia purposes for kids these age?
I don't give a shit. I don't care.
We get that, Pop.
Fine, I'll Google it through the magic of podcasting.
You don't have to Google it. I'm just saying, you just take it out.
No.
Not bring it out, or just be better prepared.
Shut your fucking mouth.
I am your father.
Man. Sometimes I wish like things would stay at a simpler time mentality.
Welcome to the Two Dads Review podcast. Week 2 of our time travel series. I'm kind of excited. This was what we really should have led with, but we decided to give it to everybody else to vote about it. And this just kind of set the mood. This 1960, The Time Machine, that's the movie we're looking at today. And it is just the quintessential time travel movie. And while also telling you what, at that time, the people who wrote and made the movie thought about the state of the world and how it would be later. And it tells like it's that type of movie that's got like a moral to it and that kind of thing. Or even less than a moral, more like a, it's just, let's just go to the future. Fuck it. Let's just start over.
Yeah, this is the way this movie is filmed and made. Like, I love it because it's just got the 60s written all over it. Like, if you liked old school Doctor Who, like, you'll probably like this movie. It's the same kind of flow and vibe, but it's this movie is basically looking at someone who has just been asked the question of time travel for the very first time. And it goes like, what would you do with time travel before, like, they knew about, like, other versions of time travel and stuff? Like, if you asked a little kid before they had seen something crazy, like, what would you do? And they'd be like, oh, I'd build a machine. And then I'd go to the future. Well, maybe I'd go to the past. You're like, right? All right, cool. You get it. You go back and forth. And they're like, and then I would go look and see what it is. And I'd come back and tell everybody all the cool shit I saw, right? And that is essentially what this scientist's point of view is. Like, it's all exploratory and, and then obviously, like, proving his concept. But there's nothing about getting rich. There's nothing about any of the capitalism. Yeah, he doesn't change the
it.
stock market. Like, the only thing he really looks at is, like, the war. And it's kind of like, do I go change it? And then he's like, well, let me see how things turn out. And then you get the kind of the story of man and all that, But yeah, he doesn't go like, all right, I'm going to go mess with the stock market, or I'm going to go kill baby Hitler, or, like, it's almost cool now to, like, watch it from that point of view again, of just someone was like, holy shit, I can go move in time. Like, let me go look at something. Like, what is up, right? Like, instead of, like, because it seems now that everybody has already secretly had this discussion with themselves somewhere in the movies, right. Or, I mean, even in real life, like, we're kind of doing it right now. And it's like, as soon as they get the time travel advice, they're like, yep, got to go back to November 8th, 1993. It's the day I wore Doc Martens, open-toed, with socks and Jinkos. I gotta go beat the shit out of my little fucking self. Like, like, everybody knows already what they're gonna do.
Right. Yeah, and it's almost time travel in its purest form. Like, it's just about exploration. It's just like deep sea exploration. It's just like space exploration. It's time exploration. It's looking at it with a scientific point of view, and that's the way this guy looked at it. This guy, there was never any mention of money. It was so pure to watch it.
Yeah, when they did talk about money for all of like 45 seconds, it was like, have you thought about mass production? And he's like, nope.
Yeah. Even the guys in the story who mentioned money talk about selling the machine, not making themselves rich, which is hilarious.
Well, they even talk about how hard it would be for him. Like, basically they were saying that your product is unsellable. Like, they're like, we couldn't even fucking sell it if we wanted to. Like, to produce that, blah, 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 like, would just be insane. And it's very naive, but it's also cool to kind of, like, watch and go like, yeah, man, that's when no one realized like all the crooked shit you could do with like fucking time travel. It was like, okay, first of all, I may have seen a computer and I heard it's the size of a house. You're fucking talking about time travel, right? Okay, get out of here, right? Like, yeah,
right.
It's awesome.
I mean, the movie was made in 1960, so I mean, there wasn't. You had the Great Depression that had happened, 30 years prior, but there wasn't like any sort of like, there's plenty of stuff they could have. I don't know. It's not like money. I don't know. I feel like money as we see it these days wasn't as massive, or like even the idea of being like the super rich were such a small percentage that it was like, meh. This guy with this just tinkering made a time machine, so he's just gonna have a good time. All the ends are meeting. He's fine. He's got a housekeeper,
Yeah, well, it's also based off the book that was even written, way before that. And even then, like, even if it was a money thing from that time, like, the guy would have wrote it so it was like he made $500. You know what I'm saying? And the guy, and it would have been like, oh my God, geez, this dude made so much fucking money. And everyone would be like, God damn it, dude. That's like even a month worth of groceries if you have like anyone else other to feed than yourself. Like at any point in time. Like even if you have like a guest over, you're like, fuck, you eat so much. Get out.
Right. Yeah, the novella it's based off of was written in 1895. So I'm interested to see. I didn't actually do any. So the worst part is I didn't do any research on the book it was based on, but I did watch the remake of the movie, the 2002 version, The Time Machine, and I was like, I gotta see what they did with it. And I remember when that came out, and I remember seeing it. I actually had seen that version before. I had never seen the original, but I'd seen the new version, years and years ago. But I was like, there were portions of it that were okay.
Yeah, that was one with Guy Pearce in it.
Yep, it is.
But Guy Pearce is just, he's an odd dude, man. Like, he's handsome, but he's not. He's like a good guy, but he's not. Like, I mean, like, right. He was supposed to be the hero in this movie, and, like, I didn't really get that vibe from him.
In the new one?
It was always, like, kind of like, I feel like you're just trying to run away from some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in the first one, like in the 1960 version, the guy was just like, I'm gonna go check check some shit out, and then I happen to fall in love. Other than like them making very servitude women in that 1960 vibe right there, like. There was some like cringeworthy shit that kind of like happened through the film where you're like,
can we talk real quick that the actress that the main female actress in the movie, played by Yvette Mimieux is her name. She was 17 for most of that shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's gross. Like, because the worst part is like as like time went on, he went from like the father. He was like a father figure because she was so stupid. I mean, not stupid, but just uneducated.
No, that's what I mean.
And then it was like,
is right.
I'm like, oh wait,
because they basically bred him as cattle for this in this whole new future. Which, like, I get that maybe it's some way somehow like humans could have got wiped out to the brink of extinction, and like then maybe we're outside-handedly bred. But the idea that humans would de-evolve is just, I hate that. And I know Time Machine is the one that kind of like made that a thing, right? So like it grinds my gears that I like this movie so much, and that's like the thing that happens because there's just almost no way that is possible to like go so high that all of a sudden that there was some epic collapse that no one could say like, hey man, we don't have healthcare anymore. Like they're like, food? I think. Like everything has a question mark behind it. Like there's just no way humans would ever get to that. Like we are a one-way stream.
On a second portion of it, if we were to, and I wouldn't even call it de-evolve as more to evolve to adapt to the underground living that those guys were doing, that the Morlocks were doing on that side, I think that would take more than 800,000 years, to be honest with you. Like, that kind of evolution takes millions of years, I would believe. Yeah. I don't think it's 800. I mean, don't get me wrong. Almost a million years sounds like a lot of it's a lot of time. Like, it's hard to, we talked about this last week when we were kind of previewing this, like, just that jump from, like, we're going 5 years, we're going 15, we're going 30, and now we've jumped 800,000 years into the future. It's like, I don't know if I can even grasp that.
Yeah, dude. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's no matter what your brain could imagine, you would never be ready for what was on the other side of that.
Yeah, and how had alien life not found our planet by that point? Damn it! Just saying, how is there not already like alien colonization? Maybe they are aliens. They never say. He says that they split top to bottom, you know, but I don't know. There was a lot of future there that we didn't get to see. Like, the rings were very cool and futuristic. So there's a lot of like future that happened before the whole world went to complete shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is how I really enjoyed. I know we're not talking about the newer movie, but I really enjoyed how they did it with the new movie. They used like practically a library like Google system, like a interface where you could just like talk to a computer image.
Yeah.
And like and it was played by I don't remember his name now, but it's the guy from oh crap. I knew I was going to do this now that we've started recording. Why did you bring it up, Clay? I don't know. Try looking some shit up before you fucking start talking about it. If you're going to bring it up, maybe be Googling it beforehand. Sad. Orlando Jones plays the Vox, the computer that he interacts with. It's cool because he interacts with him like in the early future, like, you know, 2020 something, and then he interacts with him like at the 800,000 time mark, and you're like, oh damn, you know, he's like, I remember you. And that was cool. That's a cool part of that movie.
Yeah, I did like that part.
So, anyways, Orlando Jones. Yes, I had to look it up. But that's not what we're talking about. We may talk about more of that movie as we go through the first one. But we're going to the original 1960 Time Machine, directed by George Pal. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 77 critic and a 79 audience, and I completely agree with that score.
Yeah, man, it's just a feel-good movie.
It is. It's
like even when the Morlocks, like, this is a movie you could watch with like your younger kids who watch movies with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is one of the one where you can go, you know what? I may slide in some possible
disturbing content, just bare like 60s
like some
disturbing
shit that they may not be ready for, but like. It's because it's the 60s, like, you could, like, pause the screen and go, look, you can actually see the guy under the mask, and then, like, the kid would be like, oh my god, no way! Like, because it's that kind of, you know, like, nothing's moving so quickly in this movie, or green screen to, like, death or anything like that. You can't just show them the literal practical effects they're using, you know, and it's cool. Like, it's awesome. Like, I paused it and like took screenshots of it and stuff like that and was like, man, that's kind of cool how they like layered the guy's, you know, prosthetic face for like the Morlocks and stuff like that. And then but you could also go, you also knew it was the 60s and they were fucking around with a lot of chemicals. That's why no one's got anything directly near their eyes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, here's this blue paint made out of iron and radiation. I'm sure it's fine. Just paint it on your body. Yep. You'd be good. Mm-hmm. All kinds of horror stories like that out of the golden era of movies. Real quick, the time travel rules of this world. So last week we dealt with Time Cop, that the only rule was, well, the major rule was you couldn't go forward because the future hadn't happened yet. You could only go back in time. So this one, of course, the basis of time travel for this movie is you can go forward or back at will. You can fast forward your machine. You push the knob forward, you go forward in time. Pull it back, you go back in time. I mean, that's mechanics right there, man. That's simple. That's easy. That's the way you work a machine.
The like one of the major differences is that in Time Cop, obviously they made a joke because like you have no idea where you fucking land because they landed in the Potomac,
right?
You know, but this, the way it works is their time travel is consistent with you occupy the same space,
right? Where you're sitting, you're existing in that dimension. So they talk about this. We'll get into it very quickly. They talk about the 4 dimensions, and you exist in those 3 dimensions at that exact location. You're just changing the 4th dimension. And everything. But you're also.
I only point that out because at the end of the movie, it makes sense why the guy tells the story.
It's brought into the plot. Exactly. Yeah. And it's cool that they use that in the plot. Like, okay, not only are we going to require you're going to land in this exact spot no matter what, because it makes cool for storytelling. So you can go, yep, that's where my library was. That's where this was, because we're standing like where my house was. But it also comes into the plot, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they did the same thing in the second one, but it was because that's how they basically kills the bad guy in the remake. Because the guy's half in the bubble, half out of the bubble.
And the bubble is very important too, because that's the second portion of the time travel rules. And they don't show. Okay, so this is where the first and second movie are going to come into play. The second movie blatantly shows you the bubble. In fact, like you said, the bubble is a plot element of the final boss fight in the movie, the second movie. This one, they don't show you the bubble, but it's definitely there because he engages the time drive as like lava is coming towards him, and that bubble happens and nothing hurts him. And then of course the lava cools around him and forms a mountain that has to be worn down by thousands and thousands of years of and so all of that bubble is there throughout all that time. Now, my question, I would love to know what that space, like what happens. Could you not walk into that? Is that bubble? Is that like 6 by 6, like 6 foot or 10 foot diameter bubble? Is that part of the world? Like if you were to be there as the machine was passing through, what would happen? Would you get moved out of the way? Would you get like bumped? Would you get disintegrated if you happen to be residing in the same location?
Because it's moving through time, so it has to be moving faster than the speed of light. So you would have to kind of imagine it like dominoes falling, like it's always ahead because it's moving faster than light. So as that moment's happening, it's like literally happening, but it's also moving at the exact amount of distance just to keep enough of a little bit of a pocket between everything.
Right.
So, like if you were like laying floor, no, because you are not moving faster than the speed of light laying that floor. Like he's already gone. Like he's watching that motion in slow motion, basically. And that's why it can occupy the same amount of space, because technically it's still ahead,
right?
As his time is moving.
Yeah, that was the part that was like, I was like, okay, so it's there, but it's moving through. So can you actually? And what is funny?
The only way I think you would technically hit it is if you were running faster than the speed of light, and you came into the same space at the same time.
Maybe. Because this one definitely made it feel. Remember how last week we felt like the whole movie shaped itself around this one guy's, like this was his timeline. Like it felt like he was the center point of the time travel experience. Like it was like Jean-Claude Van Damme is the one he's the constant, and the world is what's changing. Well, this one I felt like this guy was just. The world was there, and he was just traveling through it. He didn't feel, while he was moving through time, it didn't feel like he was having the kind of effect like was happening last week.
Yeah, well, yeah, because like in Time Cop, you felt like the Senator and Jean-Claude Van Damme's stories like couldn't share the same time space like for a long time. You know, like one of the stories needed to take over because it was basically whatever McCombs was doing. Van Damme was actually, in all reality, circling back to like clean his mess to catch back up to him real quick. So it was this weird little loop that was somehow just happened to have time travel involved in it, you know. And it was like finally when one of them got rid of the other, their path could go on.
Right. It felt like time was reacting to them, while in this movie this week he was reacting to time.
Yeah, and time was definitely the main focus. Like
he was just a part. He was just arriving. He was just part of it. He wasn't the one driving what was happening at that time.
Yeah, there was no redirecting of time or any of that. until the end.
Right, and that may get into the fact that you can travel to the future. Like, because we dealt with all past stuff, so it gets really, really convoluted when you go in the past. When you go in the future, you definitely aren't the center of attention. When you go in the past, you're focused on everything you know and what you need to change. You know what I mean? So maybe it's maybe it's a little bit because of the direction, and we may find that out over the next few more weeks of our little series here, that future travel, you're reacting, past travel, time is reacting to what you're doing type thing. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, it's a definite, the time travel feel for this movie is completely different than it was last week. I mean, it's, two movies separated by 3 decades and completely different types of stories. I understand I understand that that's kind of an obvious statement, but it's also, I think it's deeper than that. Just the time travel, like we said at the very beginning, it's more pure in this movie. It's more, when you think about it as, the fun part of time travel before you talk about all the world-ending butterfly effect events that you could enable.
Yeah, well, and also in this movie, like, he's not tied to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no family dynamic. This is really more of like, hey, here's me, my servant, and my 4 other rich white friends who are business guys, and I'm trying to prove to them that I can fucking time travel, and then here's my fucking crazy story
that
happened. Like, only do you get into those, like, elements that seems every time travel movie now begins in is at the very end of the movie when he's not even in the movie technically anymore.
Right.
Like, he's already left. And it's his buddy basically going all fucking detective mode, understanding what he did if his story was true.
Mm-hmm.
So then, then now he's affecting, like, obviously the future, but none of those dudes care.
Right.
Like, they'll never be remotely anywhere near it.
And this movie being one of the first time travel movies to ever, I'm not sure if one of the first ever to be made, but it's one of the first ones. I don't think there was any source material to really go through. So there's a couple of things that we'll get into during the plot that I'm like, why did you choose to go back there when you could have just gone right to here and been like, why did you have to why did you have to show up 5 days later when you could have just gone back, like, right after everybody left, been like, I'm back, I did it. You left guys sitting for like 5 days. They're like, you could have just gone back 5 more days, man, and been just fine. Like, when he came back in time, I don't know. It was just, I felt there was a few spots where you're like, why is that where you went?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it just was like, well, I mean, I think about it, they're probably still using words like Fortnite and shit on a regular basis for fucking travel, right? So, maybe you're still stuck in the standard, like, because, like, time's a construct. Like, I love that. It's just something someone fucking made up, and then everyone just kind of agrees to go by it, like time and everything. Like, so I think the guy was just stuck in his time frame's time of thinking. Like, Parcel took fucking, a month to fucking ship some shit. So he's like, well, if I go back in time for a week or I go to the future, he's still saying like 5 days of their travel time, he can gather all kinds of information and there's no fucking way that they would be able to argue. Like, but then he keeps getting curious. And he's like, oh, well, I got fucking time, right? And then he's like, let me just go a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And then, like all jackasses, and you fucking try to take a mile out of an inch. All of a sudden, you're fucking stuck somewhere in a real bad place.
Right? You get knocked unconscious and push the machine all the way forward.
Yeah.
I do want to know, I'd watch an entire movie on, like, what happens when his experiment, his little model, like, breaks down, because that thing traveled forever. Like, it was going so far into the goddamn future that it's because they just turned it on and it just went and it was gone forever and it's still traveling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they don't really get into, like, the power source or anything. I mean, this guy essentially has a magical switch.
It does. He has he's invented not only time travel, but like
the greatest battery ever, like the most life-saving battery to mankind ever. He could have, like, ended the of all coal use ever right then and there. Just remake that fucking battery, dude.
What's the Joker? What's the fictional engine everybody keeps talking about. If they ever made it, it would solve all the problems. It's not perpetual motion, but it's I forget. But it's something it's an engine that runs and continues to run on its own without needing any sort of fuel. Like it's that whole like I forget what it's called, but it's always a joke people make when it's like, yeah, well, did you invent thermodynamics or something like that? And he's like, oh yeah, cold fusion. Maybe it's cold fusion. Is that what it is? I don't remember. I am not science smart worth a shit. So
I just remember that being old, like in an Adobe scripting language.
Yeah, right. So okay, so we start out in wonderful '60s fashion with like title cards at the front, people's names in the front, great swelling orchestra music, and like, you know, once that kind of dies down, then I think at first it's all the clocks first.
Yeah, it's all the clocks,
and then it's all the music and the time and the cards.
And then it starts in with like the thunderous trumpets and shit. It's like boom, 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 when you're like, damn, man, what the fuck am I about to get into?
We are happy and ready to rock and roll. Yeah, right. The first person we meet isn't even the main character. It's Mr. Philby, which is his best friend who owns a department store across the street from his house / laboratory. And it's cool. He like gets off work, and instead of going home to his family with his young child, he goes across to his buddy's house to like have some drinks, talk about the day. I mean, it's blatantly dark too. Like his shit is closed. You know, it's closed for business that day. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna go have a drink at my friend's house. And
yeah, but maybe that was just like, you know, Friday, and he's like, hey, hon, I'm gonna go hang out with the boys. Like, you're making this like the man was never allowed out of his house. You're like, yeah, he was out there hanging out with his fucking dudes and sticking it.
Well, to be honest with you, I thought Philby and Wells's relationship could have possibly been more than friendship. The way that they talk, I've never talked. You and I are close. I have never said things to you like those two men said to each other. I was like, are you guys just?
Yeah, but is that just like, is that one of those things?
It's just the times.
Where it's like just the time, and it's just a nicer, more polite, fancier way of saying like, yo, what's up, fucker? Like, maybe. You know, and if you said that now, you're like, you like dudes or girls, or like, right? Nah, man, I just using nice words to greet somebody for once.
Right. So Philby gets to the house. The other three friends are already there. You've got Dr. Hillier, Mr. Bridewell, and Mr. Kemp. Mr. Bridewell, by the way, is the drunk of the group, and his shit is hilarious in this movie. Like, he has a couple of little times where he's either putting his drink down or pouring himself another drink because things are getting a little heavy in the conversation or what they're seeing. And he's kind of funny all the way to the end of the movie where he like stumbles out and hiccups off the, you know, as he's walking to the carriage or whatever. Like, it is like classic like 60s drunk guy. It was great. So they're all sitting there and they're making the point that Wells isn't there. Like, where is Wells at? And this happens to be, because we did it last week, I'll make sure, and because it's time travel, this is January 5th, 1900, the day they're talking right now. So they, Miss Watchett is her name. That's the housekeeper. She delivers a letter to Mr. Philby, and all it really says is like, if I'm not there in time for dinner, just go ahead and eat. I'll be there when I can, type thing. So they're all giving him shit, and they head into the dining room, compliment Miss Watchett on her cooking and all that good stuff, and then Bridewell pours himself some more drinks, and then all of a sudden Wells appears in like the back door, like, and he is just like, his shit is torn. He's like dirty as hell. He looks like he's like run a fucking marathon.
He's a beaten man.
I love it. He's like, I need something to drink. And like, once Bridewell gives him his drink, pours himself another one. and so they have him sit down and
he's like, because he pops in and like, food.
Yeah. Right. Food. I need a drink. Yeah. And so they start to question him on where he's been, what's happened to him. And this is like one of the few jokes, like Philby's like, he's like, don't rush the man. You've got all the time in the world. And Wells is like, well, that's exactly what I have. So he starts telling his story, and he tells his story, and so the whole movie is like a what happened to me the past 5 days type movie. Yeah. So it's not even, you don't get much of the happening now. It's all being told to us by Wells. So this is Wells' story. Starts 5 days ago. They're all sitting in the library. When there's this like ornate box on the table. And so this is New Year's Eve, 1899. And Wells says it deals with time. And he's in it. By the way, his library, which is supposed to have a shit ton of books in it, really has like a shit ton of clocks in it. But I initially wrote it as like just a sitting room, but he calls it a library later on in the movie. And I'm like, well, dude, you got a bunch of clocks. Like there's some books in there, but like it's like that one wall he pulls a few books from at the end. Other than that, it's like all clocks. This guy has an obsession with time and the mechanics of it.
Yeah, there were a lot of clocks. I was just trying to remember if it was one of those things where, you know, like walks in the room and if you looked, you're like, oh, snap, there are a ton of books, but, you know, the way the camera is for the next angle.
Right, there's only one angle from that room.
Yeah, it just shows just that one direction, you know, and you're like, oh, well, nice wall of clocks, man. Like, why the fuck would you do that to yourself? Those are all hand cranked. Like, those will all go off at the same time.
Or
like,
not at the same time, which is the worst part.
Especially if you don't have them wound correctly. Like, but I guess it's probably like he's so into time, they're all exactly precise.
Yeah, right. He has a good grasp on that one. And it's like, well, for one, I don't know how you sleep in a house with that many clocks in it. I can handle like one grandfather clock in a house, but I still end up waking up almost every time it chimes. Like, have you ever lived in like a house that someone has like an old school grandfather clock that just bing bongs every 15 minutes?
No, but I know what you're talking about, but it's never been 15 minutes. I had one that went off. I didn't have one, but like my friend's family had one. And I think that was like on every major quarter hour. You know, so it was like 3, 6, 9, midnight. And I'm like, why would anybody go, hey, dude, we needed this giant pendulum bell-ass alarm going off midnight every night. Like, every time I slept over, that shit fucking woke me up from a sound sleep and, like, scared me awake. Mm-hmm. And I would, like, look around and him, his brother, and, like, sister and family, even like the dog, like we're all just
immune to it.
Like just so immune to it. And I'm like over here like, dude, I was shaken awake out of a sound sleep by that thing. How are you guys, if someone ever breaks into your house, I don't know if you guys are just sound deaf to that one tone and like the glass breaking will be like an utter new sound and just immediately wake you up, or if that thing is chimed so loud for so long that you guys are all just kind of deaf in your ears a little bit.
No, my grandparents had one that I think I actually get to inherit when it's mine at that point. Mm-hmm. But which means it will never run in my house because my wife's like, that shit is not going to run. But
it would always run it, just stop it from chiming.
It would dong on every 15 minutes. So it's a single chime on the 15, 30, and 45, and then it chimes the hour every hour. So anywhere from 1 to 12 bongs at the hour. And I think even maybe 30, the 30-minute had a specific chime. I was about to have a friggin' mouth seizure. A specific time, like chime that it did for the half hour. So you knew within 15 minutes of what time it was. And I'm like, oh man, that's rough. And there's other ones that only chime like the hour and the half hour, which is I have another, like, it's not a grandfather clock, but it's a smaller one.
But that's like one of those clocks that was like built for like a farm, you know, like it's put it in the kind of the main part of the house, and that way everybody fucking can dings and hears that shit anywhere kind of remotely in the vicinity of it, know exactly what's going on. Like, all right, I got 3 hours till dinner. You know,
right.
Fucking walk out to the farm line, throw some fingers up in the sky, go, all right, dude, I can knock out fucking 800 rows of corn. Let's get this shit done.
The
fucking
good old
badass
days.
Motherfuckers. I know, man. God damn it, dude.
So he reveals in the box, it's on the table, that it's got a time machine in it. And they go through a pretty decent explanation of the 4 dimensions, and they do a good job of explaining to everybody watching who's never seen a time machine movie before in their entire lives in 1960, like, okay, I can get on board with this. It's very simple. And then he sends, he like takes the guy who's got like nice cigars and like breaks it to look like a person to sit in the little tiny seat of his little time machine his little time machine, model. And then he uses the guy's, he's like, let me use your finger to push this thing forward. I'm like, well, that's fucked up. What if like that thing took off like right when he pushed the button, that guy's finger is just gone?
Yeah, like what if there wasn't a little like 2-second delay for the startup or whatever, right? Like, oh, instantaneous, like part of your fingertips gone depending on where he set that date, homie.
It's just what you can go find it like a week from now.
Yeah.
So, but then once it, so he cranks up the machine, the little model machine, it disappears. Cool effect, 1960s. I like the, it's a nice effect of it disappearing. And then all the guys, the guy who's drinking like puts his drink down, like pushes it away. He's like, oh, what do we just see? And so as they're explaining, so this is the part where he gets into explaining, he explains like today's space as opposed to like tomorrow's space. Like this space tomorrow will be different than it is today, but it's still the same physical location. And so it's not here, it's in a future space. It's in a future space, but in this location. The guy's like, well, then why can't I feel it? It's like, because it's not here today, it's here in the future. And they, like I said, they kind of like Barney styled it for everybody, like Big Purple Dinosaur, Barney style. Like, okay, everybody who's watched this movie who's never thought about time travel before, this is exactly how it works. It's nice and simple. Here you go. And it spelled it out good for me, I thought. So let's see. What's next? Oh, this is where they start talking about the war going on in Africa right now and how could they sell it to the government. And the guys are kind of, they're all not on board with the whole idea.
Yeah, that's what they're like, we need scientists like you in the war game. Their old Chapman, he's like, do you want me to get you in touch with the government? Like, god dang, man.
Yeah, so the main three, other than Philby, or the other three minus Philby, kind of blow them off. They're like, okay, no big deal. It's New Year's Eve. I got to get home. I got time for this shit. So they all head off, and Philby, the three take off, and Wells says bye to them. And he's about to head upstairs, and he grabs actually, he comes back in, and Philby's there, and he asks him his opinion on the whole situation. Philby's kind of like, I could probably go down, and there's a magician downtown who could probably do the same trick. It's not, you made it disappear. He's like, I know you're a tinker, and I felt like during his like explanation, when he was first explaining time travel to everybody, that Philby knew a lot more about it and was like kind of already on board. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Philby knew that he was just, I don't want to say mad scientist, but it was almost kind of like it was written in such a way that for a man to sit there who is of a great mind, which he obviously is, to sit there in their laboratory tinkering with time. And if he's going to talk about something such as time, he's not going to talk about Monday through Sunday or blah, blah, blah. Like, this guy is the scientist. So if he's sitting there talking about time, he's talking time travel.
Right. So I think Philby takes off. Oh, this is where, so the three guys, actually, he asked Philby for his opinion, and then the three guys take off, and then only three of them leave. So Philby's still somewhere in the house, but like it doesn't seem to dawn on him. So he like grabs a paper as he's heading upstairs, and kind of looks at it and reads it, and is talking about how the Boer army has won another victory. And so 1899, this is the South African War between the it's Britain, and this takes place in London, which we didn't mention at the very beginning, by the way, but it's between Great Britain and South African armies down there. I think it's one of their colonies was. Oh yeah, that's right, because South Africa is a British colony for a while, right? Still is, isn't? I don't know.
Honestly, don't know.
Yeah, I looked it up to see because the main point of this movie is that it's a whole 1960s movie about war and the future of our civilization as we know it. And so it's not ironic that every time he stops as he moves forward in time, he hits a different war. So it's like, oh, well, this is what we're dealing with all the way up until 800,000 years from now. Then everything's nice.
No, it's just, history repeats itself. Repeats itself.
So Philby is still there. They talk about they talk a little more deeply about the whole situation. This is the part where Philby mentions his wife and son. His son's name is Jamie. And Philby can tell that Wells is like on a path. He's like, he knows he's going. He's going to try his machine out. Because he even asked me, you want to see the full-size version of it? And Philby's like, no, I absolutely do not want to see it.
Well, yeah, because Philby's like, we're not gods.
Mm-hmm.
That's some shit I don't fuck with. And he's like, no. Why don't you come home and hang out for the holidays? See the little guy. You haven't seen him in a while.
Right.
And he almost gets him. And then he like does the old turn the shoulder and look away and no, I have plans.
Right. And so as Philby's leaving, he's like, promise me you won't go anywhere tonight. And Wells is like, I promise you I won't step out this door.
Right. Yeah. Like as if the time machine's not fucking 10 feet away already.
Right. So Philby leaves. He tells the guys to come back. He's like, look, I apologize for my attitude. He's like, you guys come back this Friday, which is January 5th. And we'll have dinner and we'll talk then. So they all say their goodbyes. Wells goes in and writes this letter, and Miss Watchet gets to leave early, and he heads straight to his laboratory. So he gets there, and we get our first view of the full-size time machine, and I mean, it's like 1960s glorious. It really is. It's marvelous, this time machine. It's got like I think the chair itself is like an old school barber's chair.
Really? I thought it was like a sleigh.
Oh, well, I mean the body is a sleigh for sure, but the chair he sits in is like a barber's chair. Like it's all nice and cushy.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the sleigh was definitely either the director or the writer's intention, because they wanted to kind of picture them like slipping through time. Mm-hmm. That's why the sleigh was part of it. The giant disc on the back has 365 rivets in it. Like of the pattern around the outside, all the rivets, there's 365 total, which is great to line up, for each day of the year. Nice. Don't ask about leap years. I don't have an answer to that.
Doesn't exist.
It doesn't matter. Right. Let's see. So, he pulls the throttle. I can call it as like a throttle. I mean, it's all it is. The stick that pushes it forward. He checks it and like shaves it down a little bit with one of his machines that are in there to kind of like sharpen it up and make sure it fits just right in the place where it sits. And then that's it. He cranks it up and he starts to, he tests it just a little bit. Like he just barely gets it moving. And then he just kind of pulls back on the handle and he's like, I didn't feel like I went anywhere. Like things got blurry for a second, but then nothing. But then he notices that the candle, that it had been like 2 or 3 hours had gone by, and like the candle had burned down like halfway, and he was like, oh, well, my shit works.
Yep. That'd be so weird, man, to now it would be kind of harder to tell something like, only moving ahead a little bit, unless you had like monitors or like an actual clock that like you just looked, but it wouldn't be nearly as shocking. Like I feel like seeing a melted candle or something like actually decay or whatever, like you're like, oh, but like if you just see a digital clock move, you go, I mean, sometimes I forget to fucking leap forward, so
right.
I've seen wrong time before.
Right. And on that note of watching things like move forward faster, this part he's like, okay, let me go a little bit more. So this time he gives it some gas and goes further, and you get to watch like he's watching things bloom and open up for like day and night and stuff like that, and like watching snails like move fast, like things you would think is slow, you see like in fast time. So he's still not going. It's funny for me to say, but he's like traveling slowly into the future. Like it's like a day, it's more like he's traveling hours, not days or years at a time. But
he's not.
He starts out slowly going fast.
Yeah, because the lever is weird, like because the way he describes the machine. So like when you pull back, it's not just signifying like, hey, that's reverse, like we're going back in time. It's also like signifying the pace
right
at which you're going to go back. So it's like, imagine at the middle there's a 0 and then 100 on both sides.
Correct.
Or like a rabbit and a turtle, and depending on where you'll still get to the same date, but either at a very slow pace. So you could, and the way that's funny is, my question is like, let's say he did that. Like, let's say he was like, I'm going to go 40 years into the future, but at a snail's pace at this so he can see everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's still moving, like, fast enough.
Right.
But the way they do the film, it tricks your brain because you're, like, seeing it, but you're not realizing that what he's seeing is really only seconds worth of information to him. So as you're watching it, you're going, well, if he's in that bubble and he can watch that snail move the whole time, like at a certain point, days are going to have actually passed in his little bubble in real time.
Right.
Like, you know, based on the way that is, but it's like, no, it's not. He's moving so fast and in that bubble that he can just kind of, like, you got to still understand that this is faster than light, but he is slowing it down to the brink to the brink of speed of light so he can watch something move.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically when it goes black, he's moved so far ahead so quickly in front of the light that nothing is there yet. He has to wait for the light to catch up to him and everything to, like, generate.
When are you saying when it goes black? What are you talking about?
So, like, when he's
are you talking about the mountain? Are you messing up with the mountain? Because it never really goes black on him until he's covered by lava. It makes a whole new mountain around him. It doesn't go black because he's going faster than the ability to, like, see things because of light. I don't want to mess up your theory, but I may have just done that.
Yeah, because I thought one other time he says, like, as he was traveling, like, when he decided to go further, it went black.
That was because that was right after the lava, after the major bomb.
But either way, he's still, his machine is moving at fast. He can gauge his machine to either slow down to, as what you would call, like, I guess it would be like if you could run as fast as a cheetah, slowing yourself down just enough to always stay right in front of it, but watch it run slowly.
Right.
Right. And then he can, like, kick that gauge up and then just fucking leave the cheetah behind.
What cheetah? Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a throttle. It's definitely the throttle system. So you can going back, you can go back, you can go forward as slowly forward as you want, or all the way, like, and there's all the way that can take you hundreds of thousands of years into the future in a short amount of time.
Yeah, which is also cool because that means he found a way to, like, he was like, you know, fuck 88 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. He's like he as soon as he turns his machine on, like as soon as it leaves that zero state, it is instantly moving faster than the speed of light.
Right.
And that's
if you believe that time travel and speed of light are joined at the hip. That's your theory. Mine isn't that.
Okay, go ahead and give me yours.
I don't have a theory. It's not that I don't have a theory. It's that I don't. It bothers me that threshold is is such a, like, a wall that all the sci-fi we watch, they don't deal with. Yes, you're traveling faster than the speed of light, but people aren't aging around people that are traveling at warp speed and things like that. So, you know, and then they kind of counter it with, like, a warp bubble, so it kind of evens things out. So you're not really traveling faster than light. You're more like slipping into a subspace type. There's a whole, like, thing when it comes to why shows that deal with faster than light travel don't have the strange aging effect. Some of them do because they want to focus on that, but the ones that just use it for, like, a plot device don't. Star Trek doesn't deal with it. People go faster than light speed all the time, and no one, like, shows up older or arrives at a place and it's been 100 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's because, like, they don't really ever have them come back to, like, 100 years in, like, the way they do it is it's always within a 24-hour period, right? Like, so, no, what I'm saying is when they move, right, through their time subspace, like that little episode, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's written in an episode form, that, like, whatever is happening, that it's they've never really ever moved outside of, like, a full day within their time travel, like the way they do it.
Right, but the whole point of going faster than the speed of light, when you talk to, like, dealing with the aging process is as soon as you cross that threshold, your hours become days, weeks, months, whatever to the people outside of you. I just don't ever see you as being. I don't know. This is where.
Yeah, but they do that all the time. Like they did it in this movie. Like when that guy was outside of the bubble, like the Morlock, like he fucking turned to bones right in front of him.
Well, he watched something that was dead and never moved decay. That's different. That's just watching it, just like watching the snail move. He's watching something that just. It was also kind of dumb because you're saying so they don't pick up their dead, like that guy laid there. It's not like there weren't more Morlocks that weren't alive in that place before he took off. That guy was just he could just see him like he could see the snail or
because he got knocked out when he hit the wall. That's why he was just
he was dead. Like he died there on the wall. Yeah. But like him going into him turning his machine on didn't make that guy decay. He just sped up time again and he watched a dead body decay over time.
Yes.
He didn't cause it.
I know that.
Okay.
So why would his time travel ever cause anybody to die?
It doesn't, but it also because he travels, he can.
So I don't understand where you're going with your time travel causing other people to age and die. If he goes 100 years in the future and stops, everybody behind that's dead.
Right, but that's time travel, not faster than light travel. I want to separate the two. Okay?
That moving faster than light is time travel.
But it doesn't have to be. Why does it have to be? That's my problem. I hate that exact sentence is what I fucking hate.
But it is though. But like when you move faster than light, you are moving faster than anything.
So
like it's time travel.
Why?
Like, why? Because that's how fucking, if we're gonna go by time, if we're gonna call it time, like if we're gonna use the hours, minutes, time mark, light is the fastest measurement of time. Nothing has ever moved faster than that. So if you can move faster than that, you are traveling through time. Now what you want to call it is saying that I have a magic something that doesn't involve time. Like, you are on a whole nother plane of movement. Like, you are talking about, I have stepped out of the path of actual time. And you can look in either direction and see an infinite amount of time. And you have somehow slipped with the jelly cover over. And you're basically now, what you're talking about is being a bubble on the outside of a infinite tube. And when you tilt that tube in either direction, your bubble fucking moves along that line.
I just hate that speed is tied to time the way that you say it is. Because I part of that. So just because nothing has traveled faster than the speed of light, when something does finally, why does time travel have to be part of it? Why can't it just be faster?
Because light, right? Like we can open an aperture into a black hole in the middle of space and we'll capture light if we leave it open long enough, right?
I'm going to say yes, but okay.
We do. Okay. That's how they take pictures with telescopes in space and everything. Yeah, that was a hardcore rhetorical question. I was just hoping you'd say yes and move on with it. So when the light comes in, we can measure the distance from where that's at based on the time construct that we're using. The hours, the minutes, the time. Because we can go, we've left this open. This amount of light has come here and hit it. So now we see it. Based on this opening and the moment of light and pointed in that direction, they can measure where it came from and when it is. So, because what we're seeing is things that have already happened. Like, we're just now catching the explosion from something 5,000 fucking years ago because it was so far away from us.
I understand that.
If you could move faster than that, we're just gonna use that let's just say that 5,000 mark is the end of the end, right? Mm-hmm. So when you were there, right when that explosion happened, and you fucking took off running, not knowing anything else is out there, right? You just took off fucking running, and you stayed ahead of that explosion. Would you show up in that picture before or after the explosion. You would show up before it. You're moving faster than that explosion.
Now stop. Because
no, it's the same principle. You're moving faster than that explosion. Now, if you can move so fast that you're moving ahead of any of the light that can be captured in there, you're moving in front of things that haven't been made yet.
No, like you're moving it. Okay, so here, let me put it this way. So the explosion happens 5,000 years ago, and we're standing here 5,000 years from that point. Just because I only got to see it 5,000 years later doesn't mean that that's when it happened, right?
No, that means exactly when it happened.
No, it doesn't, because when I see it happen, I'm still. So you're looking into that explosion has already happened, though. Just because I'm just now seeing it doesn't.
Yeah, and you can measure that. You could go, that happened 1.5 million years ago.
Okay,
so
doesn't it seem a little self-involved just because we're on this planet and we're seeing things that have happened a long time ago, and because of the speed at which light travels, that we only get to see them at a certain point, like
because we're stationary. If you can move faster than that, I'm just using the explosion as the example, right?
Right.
Like so, but what I'm saying is, if the explosion is the only thing that has ever happened, aka the Big Bang Theory, something like that, right? Like, let's say that we'll just use that as the start of time. We're going to go scientific on this. We're not even going to say God snapped his fingers or whatever fucking religion you believe in, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to use an explosion. It's the only thing that's ever happened, which is in a giant black hole. The explosion happens. You stay faster than it. All you can do is look back.
You stay faster than the ability for someone to see it occur.
I'm using the explosion like it's the max velocity of anything ever.
Right.
Right.
The sight of that explosion. The ability to view that explosion.
So when that explosion goes off, no, I'm not even talking about the ability to capture and watch the explosion like from another point. I'm saying you're right there with the explosion. At no point does the explosion ever get ahead of you. So technically you are running backwards. You are only seeing things that happen. Now, if you can move faster than that, right? If you can move faster than that, there's nothing stopping you from running at a faster rate to go back, to go and watch the explosion. There's nothing stopping you from moving along that line now, because you are now the fastest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So at any point, you just turn around and run, and you can go back because you're running faster than the explosion. So imagine the explosion stretching out, right? You're now fast enough to kind of do what you're talking about, hop on the outside of it, and run next to it and go, oh, that rock is really small now. Oh, it's bigger. It's getting bigger. It's bigger, because that's where the explosion started. You are now faster than any of that, which is the speed of light. So if you're faster than the speed of light, you can essentially run parallel to it, which is what you're talking about, and move it any direction faster than any of it. So if you go to the future and you don't know what's going on, if you're faster than that, unless there's like a cooldown period, right? Because they always land in a machine, right? And they're inside the machine, or they're like Time Cop, they get sent through in a machine and then they appear out. So there is like a 2-second startup delay where everything is caught back up at the speed of light before they come out into their little like world or open their eyes. But if it was real and you could move faster than light, you would essentially stop. It would be black, and then immediately shit would catch up to you.
I don't believe it. I hate that I hate that, because even if you arrived, yes, you're dead stop. Like, you're traveling faster than the speed of you're traveling with that explosion. You're traveling faster than that explosion, but there are already light particles that have been there. They were there before.
No.
Yes.
No. When you become faster than the speed of light, you have to, you can't look at time the way you're looking at it. You're looking at it as like, okay, I started in 2018. I picked up, there's things that have happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have to look at it as when you, like the machine, turn on, you are faster than light. So you go from where the light will never stop to the very beginning of it instantly. There are no other starting points along this line unless you jump into parallel universes. So, for our sake, dealing with Earth, if you're moving faster than time and this is your original point, this was where the very first beam of light ever appeared for some odd reason. Don't know why. Once it did this, you were right here the whole time. And since you can do that, you can go, oh, hey, let me go back here. Oh, hey, let me go over here.
Okay. It's not changing my mind. I'm sorry. I understand I understand the entire argument that you're making to me. It's not that I don't get it. I hate that time and speed have to be connected. That bothers me. That because I can go really, really fast.
Well, what else? What else would you call what you're trying to do? All right, like I need to hear what you're trying to do.
I'm talking about seeing.
Give me an example.
Look, just even on the Star Trek idea.
Okay,
I'm going from one place to another place as fast as possible. I'm traveling light years. The distance that I can travel is way more than it used to be because I can go faster than a certain speed, faster than light travel. It puts you into, but I hate that time and distance are connected. It bothers me that if I go faster than this, that I'm going, when I drop out of warp, when I drop out of time travel, it's going to be dark for a few seconds until something catches up to me.
Well, how else would it work?
Because there's already light. Because when you stop, the particles that you're traveling faster than.
You're saying there's light ahead of you.
There's light
How?
where you stop traveling. Because now we're also talking like stationary time travel as opposed to traveling distances. Where I end up, there's light that's already gotten there. So when I stop, it's still going to be there's still going to be stuff there. I'm not going to be in a void waiting for light to catch up. It's all going to be right there just fine.
If you had a
I realize this
that,
may make me sound like a
that,
fucking moron. I don't care. It bothers me because it screws up. Faster than light travel screws up everything in sci-fi if you decide to go down the, oh yeah, by the way, when you're traveling that fast, then people are going to be dead and gone because time doesn't move the same for you as it does for them. That kind of thing.
Well, that's exactly what time travel is.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I'm not talking time travel. I'm talking really, really fast speed. They don't have to be connected.
But they most certainly do. If we can measure.
Okay, we've had this argument. I know. But it seems very centric to us. Like you're so important that you're the one. Like it seems like we're the center of it when we don't have to be. We're just moving through. All kinds of shit's happening. All kinds of things are already in places or already there or not.
Well, then see, you're talking about predetermined fate and destiny as if, yeah, if you're saying something is already there.
The location I'm traveling to already has plenty of light that has gotten to it at the time at which I arrive. I'm not beating things there.
So then you're not moving faster than the speed of light. You're moving within a... See, you are actually limiting yourself to distance and speed and time with your method. Because you're saying that when you move just fast enough that time is happening essentially right in front of you. So when you stop, because we're not using devices. This is like you and I literally could run this fast.
Right.
All right. So what you're saying is that you're running so fast, but it's just slower than the time you want to get to. Because, right? Like if you're running parallel to the time you want to get to and you stop, yes, things will be right there right when you stop. Because it's, again, the speed will go insanely much faster than you are going right then and there. Correct? And now you're saying, boom, magic, your worlds appeared. You didn't have any black space. It wasn't weird for a few seconds or whatever, right? And you're also saying that time has technically, again, already happened at this point. All I'm saying is, if you go faster than the speed of light, because you got to be able to see, right? You got to be able to see the things you want to see. Even black space has light, right? Like, that's color black. I mean, like, we can see it. But if you're technically moving faster than the things can be processed, and you just stopped, like, let's say you were technically running 2 times the speed of light, and you're just like, fuck it, I'm gonna wait. Well, then you have to wait for that time difference to then catch up.
Yeah, but when you stop, where are you? Like, why is there not... Okay.
You're in space. But that's... No, you're like... You can see what happened is you're in space, man. Like, you have moved out of this sphere, this world, this... space as we know it, right? Like, we know it's infinite, but pictured it as a sheet of paper, and that doesn't end. You can now run and keep up with it, but you're also outside of it. You're not on that piece of paper, like, as it's happening, because you're moving faster than light, which is the fastest thing. Now, I'm not saying that, like, let's say someone one day gets faster than the speed of light, and all of a sudden we go, holy shit, dude, there's all kinds of fucking 8th dimension rays out here in this shit, and there's, like, some weird-ass crap. But by moving faster than the speed of light, you would technically, if this science, pseudoscience is how it goes, you would be time traveling. And at that point, if you can move faster than it going forward, you can obviously move faster going backwards.
Okay. Agree to disagree. I cannot. It could be a limitation of my brain that I hate. I can't say it any more plainly than I hate that the speed at which you go is also tied to, like, time travel. That bugs me. I just can't go fast.
I mean, you can measure it. You can measure it in, I mean, it doesn't have to be speed, time, or distance. You can measure it as power, right?
Okay.
You would still have to be more full of energy to move. That you couldn't be less energy. You'd be stuck doing what we're doing right now. If you were equal energy with it, you would be moving technically to predict the future. But if you had more energy than it, you could what? Technically, you could manipulate the other energy. Like, you're the bigger piece of it. You can now mold it. Like, that's essentially what is happening. Like, you're the bigger organism in this thing now, and you can go, I'm going to rearrange you and move it. Like, that's what's fucking scary about it. Because, like he was saying, you're occupying that exact same space, right? In this one, like, what we're talking about is you go into that pocket and you just can kind of, like, sift through it and do whatever the fuck you want. Like, like when Quicksilver's fucking running and he's like, or, Flash is running and moves the sword. It would be shit like that, only on the scale of creating the cosmos, like time, fucking moving light years and distances at that type of, being able to do that shit. Like, that's essentially what it would be from an outside point of view.
Right.
Like that's crazy. So,
I know and understand the physics behind what you're telling me. It just, and I know.
And that's just even if any science is actually involved in fucking time travel, right? Like, dude, it could end up being like crystallize your forehead and all of a sudden we fucking open some new battery. I don't know. But like, just kind of based on the actual science that has been like proven with like the speed of light and stuff like that, there's almost no way to tie them together, like not have them tied together at this point. Like, I guess it would be kind of like when people first fucking figured out like fireworks or flight. Like, you just are like, holy shit, you don't know what the fuck you can do until you do it.
Well, here's I guess this is what bugs me, because whenever, like, the way that you're explaining this to me, all I hear is, and this goes back to one of our past podcasts when we did Event Horizon, So remember when Weir is explaining to everybody on the ship like what's happening, and he goes, well, the ship is actually traveling faster than light, and the one guy goes, oh, wait, hold on, because you actually can't do that. It's like, no, fuck you. I fucking can. If I make something that fucking does it, I fucking can. Even though they weren't really doing that, they were making a wormhole and going from one, and they were existing in two places at once or passing over, which is probably more likely what will end up happening is we'll just be riding wormholes all the time, which does what you says kind of, because it takes you outside of the normal plane that we live on, and it exists in two places at once. So you're not really going faster than the speed of light. You're just coming in. It's like
Oh, so I'm saying that essentially is just making like a hole in something that's already kind of happened.
Right.
Right. And then you have like warping, where you take the fabric of space, if it is fabric, and you bend it together so that you have point A and point B meet in the middle, and so the tail end of point A and that wave you created, or the front end of point A and the tail end of point B would become one.
Mm-hmm.
And then that allows you to pop through, and then when you level everything back out, that's how much time and or distance. But see, they only use light travel to a defined map. Like every time you have an area like time in Star Trek that I can kind of remember, where it's like someone's been gone for 200 years, they went to a piece of the map they didn't fucking know about.
Right.
And it's always like, okay, you guys probably actually went faster than light and ended up out in the fucking middle of the goo as it's being technically made. And now 200 years have fucking gone by when it caught up to you. And especially if you go back in time. Like, that's what makes time so fucking creepy, because it's not just linear. Like, it's also horizontal and vertical. Like, it takes up all those spaces, so you have to move through all of them. But if you can move faster than all of those dimensions, like, you're ahead of nothing. Like, that's what's super fucking creepy about it.
Agreed. If your focus is time travel, not just distance.
Yes. But like, if you are just literally wanting to spin a clock forward or backwards, and then how many ever revolutions it's hit, that's where you go. Yeah, if you can move, if that was the basis and you move faster than that, like you're in a black space for a little while. And then because then you would have to make up a whole new measurement of speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would essentially have to go, all right, I have ran light speed. I am now running double light speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's just, it's fucking insane. And that's just if you're taking it as like, I'm the only guy that's invented time travel, right? Like, I'm the only guy with this fucking power that can do that. Like, let's not even forget something where like you just get pulled out of the ooze.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a stasis, but it's not like a stasis where you're moving in the ooze and then the ooze just moves and then you get plopped the fuck back in. Like, like that's
like last week. They kind of just pulled you out, dropped you in.
Yeah. Like that's even, that's how you end up in the Potomac, with no fucking landings. Like, that's the one thing I liked about this time machine is the stationary element of this machine. Like, and again, in Time Cop, they essentially said, yo, we got to go faster than speed of light on this fucking 60-foot track. Whatever. Right? Like, that's how we have to do it.
Right.
Anything to create that ripple. Whatever creates that ripple. Right? Magnetism, fucking warlocks, doesn't matter. But that little hole you need.
Right. Okay. I like I said, I understand.
No,
and the three people who have not turned this podcast off yet and listened to us rant about this between each other, I know if I sounded stupid, I can't help it. I sound stupid a lot, but
No, I just wish I could understand, like, because I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
I am going off of my standard nerd of Star Wars and Star Trek. Anything that has created faster than light travel, that the portion of people getting old when you drop out of it, and you've traveled, you've taken, 1 day to make this trip from this point A to this point B, that's really, 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 really fucking far away from each other. And in standard theory, when I travel this many light years and it takes me 10 minutes to do it, everything that's outside of this ship that's doing it is going to have gone through 15, 20, 100 years, whatever the fucking calculation is. As opposed to just, I have gotten this ship fast enough to take this distance in the fastest amount possible, which happens to be faster than whatever the speed of light is. I'm going from point A to point B. I want to do it as fast as possible. All the exploration of space, all that stuff gets real wonky and real, like, shitty. Actually, okay, it gets real shitty. And in fact, we're not gonna watch Interstellar in the next 2 weeks. We already have the next 2 weeks picked out. But we need to watch Interstellar because I want to say that happens in the movie, like that they deal with all of this stuff, like all the, like, you know, all the time issues on top of just going faster than the speed of light. And I need to really watch that movie again before I start talking too much about it. But yeah, that's the part that bugs me, is because then that means that we can't ever really do any of the cool shit we've dreamed about for 50 years, 70 years on television. I mean, not that it's supposed to be something to shoot for, but we talked about it last week. We talked about it, maybe not so much this week, but, you know, a lot of our scientific and technological advances have been based off people's imaginations and shit they saw on TV. Like, I mean, it's just the way it is. You see that, you get a little bit of a glimmer, and then all of a sudden you go from Kirk flipping open a communicator to people flipping open a cell phone. You know what I'm saying? That's literally what it was based off of. You have...
You know, based on what you and I are talking about the exact same thing. Like,
we are. I know we are. I understand. You are not trying to. You have spent the last 25 minutes trying to convince me that when I travel faster than the speed of light that everything's going to age around me. I fucking know that, but it really bums me the fuck out, because that means
no. I'm not. No, I am not saying that. I am not saying that. What I am saying is, okay. Everyone that is listening to this podcast, I truly thank you. I honestly, because I am grinning from ear to ear because I haven't talked nerdy fucking science shit in quite some time. And I'm not even trying to argue. Like, we're not even arguing if it sounds like we're arguing.
No, we're not.
But, okay, so I'm gonna try to explain what I think you just said to me. And you tell me if I'm right.
Okay, go.
Okay? All right, so what you're saying is, if we're just gonna pick today, if I left today and went 500 years in the future.
No,
right?
Don't talk about time. Talk about speed.
Okay. So, okay.
You're trying to get to another planetary system as fast as possible. So you are going to take a ship that is going to travel faster than the speed of light, because you are trying to get there as soon as you can, because you don't have 1,000 years to get from this planet to the next habitable planet.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you have to go fast. You have to go as fast as possible.
So I go faster than the speed of light. I get to this planet, I pick up my shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That takes me 25 minutes, and then I go back to the other place.
Back to Earth.
Right?
Yes.
Back to Earth. I go back to Earth. So when I land in Earth, how much time should have gone by?
If you're going to tell me the answer is no time, you're wrong.
No, I'm not.
No, twice the amount of time that you did, plus 25 minutes on the other planet. Whatever time is, if you've traveled, if you're the theory of what what you have been explaining for the past 20 minutes is that I got a ship that can go however many light years. So what? A light year is the distance in a light year is how far light travels in a year, correct? That's the whole point of the word light year, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So this ship is, this planet is the closest.
Just say 1 light year away.
No, one light year away. Okay, so, but you're going to travel how fast? You're traveling faster than how fast we're traveling to get there. I mean, in science fiction,
scenario,
so if I can travel 1 light year in 15 minutes, let's just say that's how fast we can go. All right, I can travel.
You're not moving faster than the speed of light.
You're not, because it's 15 minutes. I can travel the distance.
You have now moved close, if not parallel to the speed. Like, if it takes you anything other than instantaneous, you're not moving faster than light.
If I travel the distance of 1 light year in 15 minutes.
Okay. So
that distance that is associated. Are we arguing? Are we having the same argument? Are we on the same page? Like, that's what I'm saying.
But what I'm trying to figure out is I get what you're saying. So you're saying that we're using time as a distance, like light years. as a distance. So instead of saying they're fucking 1,008,990,000 miles away, they're 1 light year away. It takes you 15 minutes in your craft to travel 1 light year. Okay, so it'd take you 15 minutes to get there, right? That's what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spend 20 minutes packing up.
Right.
So we're at 35.
Right.
And then you travel back.
Right.
1 light year.
Right.
That's 15 minutes.
Yes, 50 whole minutes.
Because it takes you 15 minutes to travel 1 light year, right? That's what we said.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're at a total time of 50 minutes has gone by in your time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Which is more what you're saying
travel,
is your distance travel.
Right, in the travel to that light year away.
I'm not arguing any of that.
Okay.
Because you're using it from set space.
Right.
You're saying I'm gone from this location to a location we know about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You're on a map that you can see.
Right.
I'm on a map from the very beginning. Like, let's just read it like a book. We all know where it started. That's the map I'm on, of where everything began. And I can move faster than the map can be made. That is what I am saying. And if you can do that, you can move throughout time without ever aging. Because you have put a time limit on what it takes to travel that distance, right?
I don't know where we are anymore. I don't know. I don't.
Okay.
Because you're literally arguing my point for me. Because I think what I'm saying is the accepted scientific thing is that as soon as you cross that threshold, which you can't, but if you could, how you perceive time passage is radically different than anyone who's not traveling at your speed.
Yes.
So that 1 light year that it takes you to go, it takes me 15 minutes because I'm traveling however faster that has to be to make it to that 1 light year in 15 minutes. The distance, so it took me 15 minutes. But what they're saying is because you're traveling faster than the speed of light, that 15 minutes and whatever, and depending on how much faster you're going, time as you perceive it in your person is completely different than the people outside of that. And so when you do arrive back, like 5 or 10 or however many years will have passed where you left from, so that 50 minute jaunt would have been 25 years on Earth, like where you left from, which bothers me.
And that's because your craft doesn't go from 0 to the speed of light. Your craft goes from 0 to a 20-minute buildup to the speed of light. And then it goes to a destination that has already happened.
Right.
It just happened.
Right.
No. But you're okay, like, you're moving to something that's already been known about. Like, light has already hit it. You just happen to know that the distance in time is 8 light years away.
Yeah.
Okay? What I am saying is you're moving faster than things can be made when you are doing what I am talking about. That is time travel. If you are moving faster than the original beam that started all of everything, that one beam of light, and then they branched out and made everything else, right? It's the very first one. If you can stay ahead of that original beam, you can move within wherever you want without any aging effects to you or anyone in the time you went back. Because you are saying, I'm going to a distance, but somebody already knows about it. So it's already had to have been there.
Right.
So it's 8 light years away. Cool. So that means when, like, the first people found out about this, it took 25 years for that shit to go. Or whatever the time it was for the light to come in. And now you're talking about moving to a distance that is known. I'm talking about you are ahead of the unknown. You don't know if the ladies of the strings of fate are plucking, if God is pulling, if Muhammad or anybody you believe in is doing anything. You are faster than that. At that point, you are literally
instantaneously fluid moving with
agreed.
everything.
Agreed. So, but that wasn't what we were originally arguing at first. We were just talking about
Time travel
places.
in general.
Well, we were talking about time travel, but the problem is that even if it's two finite points, when you begin to move faster than that's what I swear to God, that's what it's supposed. That's what science says. I understand what you're talking about when it comes to moving faster than like getting out ahead of the first particle. But the problem is like, hey, how are you going to get there first? Like, get to it? Because it's been traveling for billions of years. That first particle, like, it's way out there. You have to get to it first. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't know. It's probably because I'm putting distance into it. I don't know. It's
because see, you're.
I'm literally on a set map of locations that are very far apart from each other.
Yes, that is your problem. Your A to Z, you can see. What I'm saying is,
I'm not talking about time travel. That's the whole problem. I know you were, and I know what you're talking. Like when it comes to these movies, we're talking about how people are going to travel in time. I'm talking about the scientific world says if you travel faster than the speed of light, your experience of the passage of time will not mirror those who are not traveling as fast as you are, and you will end up places 25 years from when you left, and you will have figured it being moments or minutes. When you come back, when you drop out of that speed, it is now significantly further into the future only because you perceive time differently.
Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. If you're moving faster than anything can happen, if we're talking about going into the future.
When I say faster, I mean in a direction, not in
a.
I think there's
a direction.
That's what I'm saying. Is like what? Okay, you and I are both. I completely understand and agree with what we were saying. I'm not sure. Part of me, that's why I don't like that if I'm talking about, like we said, a point to a point, and I can go there as fast as fucking possible. What science says is that when I travel that 1 light year in 10 minutes, when I come back to Earth from going to get that ore that we needed and back, it will have been 25 years on Earth or whatever the time it is difference when it comes to how fast you're traveling. That's what bugs me because it's like, why can't I just go fucking fast and then go fucking fast back?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like, I understand with the time travel. I understand when we're trying to spitball time travel right now. We're trying to make it.
I don't care. It's our podcast. Do what the fuck I want.
Right. I don't like that the two are inherently. When you talk about one, it immediately goes to the other. Like they both like something. If you talk about, I need to go there to there really fast. At some point in the conversation, while trying to create something that will go that fast, or like, well, but you're going to actually, like, time is going, you're going to perceive time differently, and then you're going to be young, and they're going to be old or dead, or generations will have gone by, and shit can't work, so we're just stuck here. We can't.
Well, that's all because everything that they talk about using has that delay. So you get that ripple effect, right? Like, your ship, they always go prep for light speed. So there's that prep that's happening. Yes, it's in real time, but as it's building up, because, like, you see everything stretch. Mm-hmm. So they're, like, catching up to it, and then they stop, and then it keeps going. Like, that's where they move. So there's always still this little gap, this bubble, right, of time that's still ahead of them. So when they're moving these machines and you have this delay that happens like that, when you actually ripple that back through time, light years away, because time and light are still the exact same thing, there's the gaps and the ripples. That is your time delay that is now reaching back. And that's why, yes, if you fucking went back like that, everybody would be like, oh, fucking 800 years went by, I'm fucking Timmy Jr., blah, 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 blah. In my scenario, time travel, you go from 0 to whatever is needed immediately. There's no build up. There's no that warp there. You just literally go from ahead of time. If we're not distance, you go ahead of distance, you go ahead of time, you go ahead of space, you go ahead of light, you go ahead of everything. If you're going forward. Mm-hmm. And if you're going backwards, you're moving so quickly that everything is technically not happening until you stop. And then it's like it catches back up, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're always, you would always be in fast forward while everybody's in play. That's in my version of time travel. That's why there's none of that aging shit or any of that weird stuff, because it's basically all instantaneous. And all these other scenarios, they use some form of machine that builds it up to do it. And with anything that needs pressure or whatever, it's gonna cause that rippling shit. Because it's now moving through sound and time and blah, 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 blah. If you could just fucking get up and go, you can do whatever you want. You know?
Right.
I always like, speaking of time travel and odd shows, remember that show on Fox that was like, no. Fragile? No.
Timeless? No.
No. It had the guy from Dawson's Creek in it. Pacey.
Oh, Fringe.
Fringe.
I love that show. I didn't understand half of it either.
Remember when the Time Watcher guy like started appearing? And when they were in that lab, there was a guy, and this is like my favorite definition of time travel ever. He was talking about the bald guys. And he goes, well, imagine he had a straw, clear straw with an air bubble in it. And he was like, imagine that time is finite. And if you tilt that bubble, it moves, you know? If you tilt that straw, it moves through it. So like that guy was able to shift linear events. Granted, he was never moving outside of a pre-known version of time, right?
He was always traveling back.
He left from wherever he went and then moved down. So he has like a cap, but he could flow between any of that without really any ramifications. But because his future's always going on, like that aging thing happens. You know, so, but if you can move faster than anything can be created, you don't have that aging problem in either direction. That was what I was trying to get at. I was really great fun talking about it. That's just, I haven't geeked out like that in a long time.
Yeah,
that
well, you're welcome. Because, we haven't had a conversation like that in a long time.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. But no, like, that was a really roundabout way to get to where we were at.
Yeah.
That was fun, though.
Yeah. As long as you don't connect time travel with distance travel, I'm okay.
No, not what I was going for.
Yeah. So hey, let's burn through this movie real quick. Because
shit, it's fucking basically he goes into the future.
He stops at World War I pretty much.
Stops at World War II.
Stops at World War II real quick, and so then he stops. If I felt that they were, because this movie's made in 1960, so his next big stop, which is pretty cool, and the first time in the movie where they're actually in the future from when the movie was made, is August 19th, 1966, and things are already, like, you're getting a little bit overzealous saying we're going to have some of the stuff happening, like, in 6 years from when this movie's coming out.
Yeah, but it's like watching the old Tom and Jerry cartoons, and they'd bring in like the Home of the Tomorrow in the 50s and shit, man. Like, that's just like the science that was happening at that time, like after like all the great, you know, vaccinations and cures like that happened, became all of this like mechanical science shit, right? And then it was all flying cars, saucers.
Yeah, we're so
like
close to this.
Yeah, like everybody was like, dude, if we can fly fucking jets and look at what we were doing in, you know, World War II, and Jesus Christ, look how far we've come in 20 years of this mass production, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like,
we do see in Philby's store. Did you happen to catch it when okay, so we didn't mention he ran into Philby's son, mistook him for his friend in the World when he stopped in World War I. So 17 years after they first, you know, the baby was now like 18 and he's in the army, you know, and it's World War I or whatever. And he said that his dad actually died in the war too. So it's like, man, y'all are drafted some elderly folk into that shit, because if you get, you know, so. It could also have been a bombing he died in. Who knows? But anyways, we meet him in six.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I'm glad that's a good point to point out, because like not everybody was going to war. Like, you know, it wasn't like it was just like, oh shit, hey, everything happened. Like, a lot of everybody woke the fuck up and everything was destroyed around them in an air raid.
True.
You know, or something like that. Yeah.
So
now that kind of makes me think. So, like, did his dad die because of like the start of the war? Because he would have been an old guy, and like his son was
older,
like, all right, man,
just not like draft worthy. Honestly, he'd have been his. I mean, I took these men for being in their 40s. Would you say 40s?
I would say based on like where they all seem in their career wise, like 40 at the earliest.
So you're talking like 67 or like 20 or 57.
Yeah, dude, like you'd be
57.
you'd be scraping the bottom of the barrel if you're calling like a damn near 70-year-old man out for like the front lines. Like, yo, dude, we need more bodies.
Right.
Let's go.
So I want to assume he was killed some other way than being actually, drafted. But anyways, when he stops in 66, he sees Jamie again, and he's an old ass man, and he's got like it's 6 years into the future. As he's leaving the store, if you pause it, there's a display in the window, and it says the latest tubeless TV, and it looks very nicely and very close to what a flat screen monitor looks like now, like what I'm talking to you on, and it's very cool. I had to pause it the second time because I wasn't really paying attention to it, but I love it. Like we did this last week when they get it right, like way back then. Tubeless TV.
I like, because this is after all the atomic bombs and all that shit. And this is like fucking, I love that the raid sirens were going off. Mm-hmm. So like everybody is still stuck in this like massive warframe, mentality. And then a crazy flying saucer thing comes in.
Atomic satellite.
But its power was, it was essentially atomic ray gun. It was a fucking nuclear satellite just floating in the sky. Like, all right, dude, blow some shit up. Like, this book in that era was so war driven with either like G.I. Joe, like mentality, like be for your country, whatever side it may have been on, or it was like this science kind of view of like, we just made that bomb.
How far will we go?
Everyone's gonna fucking die now. Like, you're gonna take that and it's gonna be in handguns and Pez dispensers, and like kids are gonna be walking around with sneakers that make them run fucking 500 miles an hour, and they're gonna blow up and shit like that. Like that and radiation and things like that. Like the atomic power and radiation, man, just boom, because the Morlocks, I think is what they're called. Mm-hmm. Like he was like, I don't want to call them Morlocks. Turn that W upside down there, bud. But like they look like radiated people,
right? Deformed faces.
They don't look like they evolved into blue creatures that could somehow like herd dumb humans,
right?
It's like something genetically modified you somewhere.
Down the chain.
Right? Like,
not just being underground.
And it's just crazy, radiation and the atomic everything, right? Like, comics were going bonkers. Movies like this shit was just, man, what a great time.
Well,
like,
I love in this movie how when the atomic satellite does whatever bombing it's going to do, like he survives it. Like he's watching it happen, and to the point where this is supposed to be the end event that destroys all life on Earth, is what they're trying to say with this movie, is that this total annihilation of everything. He happens to be in London for this part of it, but we're talking about it opens up lava. In fact, one of the quotes is that, I didn't write it down, son of a bitch. Anyways, it was something to the effect of, man did this, so Mother Nature answered with this. Is what's said in the movie. Like, so you're going to do atomic bombs, then Mother Nature's going to open up every volcano and encase the Earth in a brand new, layer of rock.
Oh yeah, she's basically going to scab herself over like, and fucking rebuild.
I'll fix this. Watch this, motherfuckers. And then and this is, I know it's the 60s, so like you're not going to get good lava. I mean, they used, I believe I read they used like red food dyed oatmeal to do the lava, but it's some definite miniature work when they do all the lava coming out.
I loved all the miniature work, man. That made me want to go to like Hobby Lobby and buy a bunch of shit. And I was like, dude, I'm just gonna film like an explosion scene or something. It's gonna be awesome.
Yep. And so this is where we find out what we talked about earlier, is that he gets back to his machine just in time to throw it into the future because the lava's coming at him, and so that lava encases itself around him. And he has to wait for wind and rain to wear the rock away. My question is, so here's my next question. If he were to have stopped the machine while he was traveling, and while he was in that rock, would there be a perfect spherical bubble of where he's sitting in that rock, or would it
Yeah, I think the way they're doing it is like that
he does occupy that space.
Yeah, their form of travel, like if he would be stuck there long enough, right? Like it forms some kind of sphere, which is weird because you have like earlier scenes where it would like walk through that area, like nothing was there. Like we were saying, if he had it there and then somebody, like no one walked through his laboratory, and that the way he was traveling through time, since he could see it, like he should have seen bodies all moving around. Like he was very lucky that people weren't ever around while he was traveling, except for at the very end of the movie when the one thing he wanted dead was there. Because like he would have just seen a lot of fucking bones everywhere all the time. So I guess like for movie purposes, I feel like that they were like, yeah, this thing needs to make a bubble if he's going to get encased in
rock for 800,000 years.
Yeah, because to me still, like if you're in that sequence, it's like you're there, but you're freeform to me.
You're phased.
Yeah.
And if you were to stop, you would be instantly dead because you would be within the rock. You'd be part of the rock.
To me personally, like if he was in that machine and just happened to be like, right now's a good time, and like that stuff was there, like based on the way they were doing it, and I know we're making this way too technical, but like he would have been in the middle of that formation being made, especially since they're saying a bubble was there, where like I was just saying like you're just kind of like a translucent entity.
Yeah.
You're just there, and then when you stop, like you're still moving faster, so you'd be like, oh, there's going to be a step here, and you would see it, and you just put your foot down and fucking keep going.
Right. Yeah. So it's, there wasn't a whole bunch. After they explained time travel, the first scene, they're like, okay, we're good with that.
They're like, you got it. You're going to be able to go forward. You're going to be able to go backwards.
That's all we get. Yeah.
And we're not worrying about any of the other complex shit that may or may not happen while traveling.
Also, the director wanted the big disc in the back of the machine to travel clockwise with forward in time and then counterclockwise when he was going back in time. But the machine that drove it would have doubled the cost of building it to go the other direction as well. And they're like, okay, fuck it, we're just not going to do that. He's like, nice. Yeah, don't get to do that. That's too bad. But yeah, so he has to wait for all the rock in this mountain to wear down. So he's talking, I mean, at this point, the dials are spinning so fast, you can't even see what it is anymore. You see a number here and there, but it doesn't mean anything. So he ends up stopping. He sees like futuristic style buildings like get built and then like break down and like become like, shells of themselves, and then he finally like he stops, and this is where we talked about it, he stops too fast, like, and it like spins him out of his machine. Like he stopped so fast because he didn't take the time to gradually decline, like pull back on how fast he was going forward, and so it like spun him out and threw him from his thing, and then he's at the base of this large, like, it's a sphinx, really. It's a head of a humanoid figure, but it's just the head on this giant, in this display type building. And so he does all of his exploring.
Think Star Wars. Like the way this is like every humanoid like Star Wars village they make. They're like, all right, you worship some weird god thing, and all the people are basically poor. Right? Like everybody always struggles, and then you got a pretty good vibe of what's going on here. Like it's weird because it also looks like an oasis, but like everybody has been like stripped down from basic essentials at the same time.
Well,
it's
and before he even runs into people, that dome he had seen off in the distance, he gets himself down there, and like everything, it's a bunch of woods, weird fruit and stuff growing everywhere. So it's like there's things to eat all around you. And this building, it's worn down, it's in shambles, it's not upkept. But when you go inside, there's all these place settings, and it's a completely cavernous, like empty place, but it's all like clean, and there's like place settings, and it looks like it's ready to be used at any moment. And we're like, okay, so what's going on here? It's kind of weird. And he has like a 5-minute scene like messing with the echo, which I'm like, okay, I realize we're like big deal, like the whole like echo thing. I'm like, dude, just yes. It's a big fucking room. Like, we get it. We're fine. I understand how big the place is. So he finally ends up running it. He at one point, like, he starts to freak out. Like, he starts to like have like a panic attack because he's afraid that there isn't anything living anymore. Like, he hasn't seen a single living human being or animal for that matter. And he starts running through the woods, running through the same woods he just ran through. He just went left instead of right. But I'm like, okay. But he ends up hearing noises. Like at like his like breaking point of his panic attack, he hears like teenagers frolicking, and he like heads towards the noise. And as he gets closer, he hears like a woman screaming. And they're all just kind of sitting around, like, just chill. And he sees this girl, like, in the water, like, drowning. And so he's running, like, why aren't you idiots helping her? And he just dives in and saves her. And they all just...
That's because they're cattle.
I love the two guys in the rock who are just like, cool. Like, watching her, like, die. Like, the guys are just sitting right there.
But, like, yeah, it's funny to think. Like, I'm with you because it's terrible acting as well. And so it's all around, like, bad in general. You know, and you're like, why wouldn't you help? Right? You know, like, that is our initial reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more you really think about it, like, this is some, like, world-class, like, breeding they have, like, going on. Like, they have convinced these Morlocks, these dumb, whipping, giant blue things have somehow convinced all of mankind to not have any empathy or apathy for fucking anything. Like, it is literally just chill, eat, and sleep. Like,
right.
That, I like paused the movie during this part and I was like, that is fucked up, man. Like, that is some dark shit when you think about it. Like, a group of people just watched that person drown, and like, not even one of them had a like sense of urgency of like, oh shit, I need to help, or like, they were all just like, sometimes on Tuesdays people drown.
Right.
Right? Like, that's just what happens.
Yeah. There's a massive amount of brainwashing that has happened, or
Yeah, just insanely submissive.
Yeah, because there's no fight. There's no fight for these people. That's all been bred out or spliced out or whatever they did to make these people to be as docile as they are and to lose. Because a lot of stuff, they've stripped them, without sounding cliche, they've stripped them of everything that makes us human. Where it comes to empathy for others. In fact, I think Wells even goes into it when he's talking to Weena, who is the girl he saved. Later on in the movie, he's like, humans have the inherent desire for self-sacrifice. Like, we will throw ourselves on a grenade to protect our buddies. We will jump into waters that we know are raging, risking our own lives to try to help another human.
Mm-hmm.
And that all that has been bred out of these people, and they are cattle. The Morlocks don't have to fight. They turn on the air raid sirens, and the people just walk to these temples, and they just close the door when they're full of people and just eat all the ones that came in. That's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
yep.
What do you got? And it's been, the movie overall is great. It's a cool story. I want to know the 300,000 years after that mountain wore down and all this shit happened, and then now we're here. Like, that's where I'm like, what was it like before that? Because, like, this is like when the pattern has existed for thousands of years, and that's when we drop into it. But I want to see what got us
where was
to
the
that.
Great Morlock War, right? You know, or what happened
Mm-hmm.
to just be cattle at that point? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you get anything young enough, you can turn it into whatever you want.
True. And
that's really fucked up to say, but it's very true.
Very true. So the next bit is him just learning the structure of the Eloi. We see them being called to that place he was just at to eat the tables and stuff, and they're full of, when he goes in there, they all just kind of, you know, as soon as what calls them to is it because it's nighttime? There's no sirens that happen for the eating.
No, I just think they just kind of cut to them eating. Like, it was, I think was one of those things.
Oh, I think they just walked off. They just all walked off because it was getting dark.
Yeah, there wasn't a dinner bell. It was like after the commotion by the stream and the sirens, everyone's like, okay, that's the next part of the day is we walk over here and we all go sit down and eat.
Yeah, I forget what actually cued them. I can't remember if they just walked off, if they just walked away, and she walked with them, and they just walked up and had dinner. But he went in and sat down with them. I think it was because it was nighttime. They all went there, but then he was really surprised because food had appeared, like at the tables, and the places was teeming with food, and all these people are eating, and he's like, "Where does this come from? How do you get it?" And they're like, "It's always here. Like there's always food. Like we show up at this time, and there's food here. Like it's Yep. Caged animals." And then so he's like, I got to get my at this point he goes back, and I think his either when he was saving her or after dinner he goes back to check on his ship, and like his ship has been dragged into the temple while he was gone. And so he's like, I've got to stay here and find my ship. And she's like, no, it's nighttime. And so he's out there at night with his ship by himself, and then he hears there's some stuff moving around in the woods, and he's lighting matches to try to see in the dark, and it scares away what's ever there. And then as he hears something else rustle, he runs in the woods to grab it, and it's her. It's Weena. She's come out to check on him, which is already against the nature of these people. Like, she shouldn't have given a shit.
Yeah, it bothers me so bad that like it always seems that humans go into the future and our inevitable fate is to just be dumber and shit.
Right.
Like, we're dumber and shit now doing a lot of things, and we still have fucking cars, buildings, homes, farms, like all the shit. Like, at no point, and you're right, like, this has to be centuries of just docile breeding.
Yep.
Like, they probably were like, I mean, I don't know how they rationed out people, because I would imagine there was a large contingent that were like, I'm not your food, fuck off. But then to sit there and go, okay, we know how to raise these things to just intelligent enough levels that they can talk to each other enough, eat shit, sleep, but not give a fuck about any other. Like, she should have just walked right by him.
Right.
Like outside of him looking weird, but as soon as his first sign of like struggle, all of them would have probably just turned around and walked away and been like, we don't do this. Like, that is how hardcore ingrained that is for them to routinely report to raid alarms to go get eaten. Like, no one's raised a question about like, where the fuck did Jimmy go?
Yep.
And they don't even have a story. It's not even like they were lied to. It's like, oh, those are the select few that get to go to the saving place or anything. It was just, we hear this bell, we walk to that fucking hole until they shut the door.
Like, oh, not today. Maybe next day. Maybe tomorrow. I'll get there faster.
Yeah. Oh, the happy place. Damn, I just missed out. Like being the slowest walker there would be the safest person ever.
Right. Be nice and fat. Don't walk sad. Don't walk.
You being lazy, you would survive there until they like handpicked you out. Like, you're plump enough there, big guy.
Right. So she, while he's talking to her, she takes him to. Well, at first we get like, I mean, they're so dumb to the point when he builds the fire. Like, at night, she's like, ooh, let me touch that. Like, she tries to grab it, like, tries to touch the fire. And we're like, oh, man, you guys really are kind of slow, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, even, like, the first conversation was like, what's your name? Like, we all just evolved to have, like, phonetic-sounding names. Like, you're telling me Steve, Michael, Carl, Joe, none of those names survive? Like, I hate that. Like, anybody that comes from someplace far away or the future or they've lived there, they always have some dumbass name. Like, my name's Zach Sortager.
There's no vowels.
When did that become the fucking standard for the naming, like, convention? Like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Nice.
And especially when they speak English, right? It's not like I'm saying that a person from the future who speaks Spanish isn't going to have a dumbass name in their versions of the movies. But it's not like the guy comes in and goes like, oh, I picked fucking Pancho because I like this or that or whatever, right? It's just that became the weird way people started naming things. Mm-hmm. It was like, that was easier to fucking say for you than Steve or Joe or Jay. Like, come on. Like, Dad, when I lost my shit, man. When she said her name.
That's funny.
It's so annoying to me. Pet peeve. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Like the next morning, she takes him to the like exhaust vents that are like that lead to the underground. There's some sort of exhaust type system. He can hear machine sounds down there, so he's like, well, it's not completely like, you know, frontier days down here. Like there's machines. Something is doing mechanical things are working in this area somehow. While they're there, she talks about they learn everything from the rings, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" She takes him down to the room that has the futuristic, like it's like a nice glass table, and you pick up these rings, and there's only like, I mean, I didn't see like a row of them for them to learn a bunch of shit, but like there's like a dozen or so, and you spin them, and they talk about past war, you know, the 300-year war and stuff like that, and I don't know if they're trying to do. I don't know if we saw London get taken over. Maybe that war lasted forever. I mean, from the way they made it look, when London got blown up in 1966, like that was pretty much it till 800,000 whatever. You know what I'm saying? He was encased in rock and it was over. So I guess other stuff happened elsewhere, but it's all right there. So
yeah, that's the weird part, because like when they do that bubble and he gets encased. Like, yeah, there could have been a 300-year war while he was moving through his underground time loop. Because, like, that's the other thing that bothers me.
But not right there. Not within walking distance from where he was, because it was all lava right there, which is weird. So it's like, it's just a plot hole. It really is. They do all this. We know this movie is anti-war. It's trying to tell us the we'll always destroy ourselves type scenario. So I understand it's for storytelling purposes, and it was a cool futuristic thing to do. But if that area of London where his ship was got covered by lava, then it all in that area got covered by lava. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because his ship was like 4.5 feet fucking tall. So
right.
There had to have been quite a layer of lava laying on fucking everything at that point.
So a few things don't add up, but we understand what they're going for. They're like, hey,
maybe the war, because they all went to those underground raids, so maybe the war was underground and he was stuck above.
Yeah, maybe it's whatever. Who knows? They don't go
and
into
and all those weird people got hit with those atomic guns and fucking Morlocked it.
Turn blue.
They all started evolving, turning blue and shit.
Right. So as soon as they finish up at the ring place, this is when the air raid sirens start. And she literally, they're like mid conversation, and she just immediately just stops and just walks away. And he's like, wait, what? Oh, he was going to climb down into the tunnel. And she's like, see you later, have a good time storming the castle. And when he starts to climb down, the sirens start up, he starts to climb back out, and she's done walked off. She's with everybody else walking towards the sirens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh shit, gotta go later.
So then you get 5 minutes of him running through the whole crowd of Eloy trying to find Weena, and he sees her just as she gets through the doors, and the doors slam on him, and then the sirens stop, and he hollers at the nearest guy around him like, why don't you guys do anything? He goes, because it's all clear. And then you tie the scene in 1966 where they're talking about the air raid sirens, and we got to go down until they sound the all clear and all this stuff. You're like, okay, we're just doomed to repeat everything forever and ever. We understand the story. You're beating over our heads. So then he's like, okay, I got to find a way in there. So he immediately heads for the vents he was going to climb down to originally. And this is kind of a cool part, because a couple of the Eloy who normally wouldn't have given a shit actually follow him to the vent and watch him go down. So it's not just they're already starting to show in just a few days, actually in just one day, a single person that is not in their standard norm can throw off eons of breeding, of cattle breeding for these guys, because he turns at least one other guy, to be to do something.
Well, yeah, because when he gets in there
and
he finds her, one of the things I noticed is when he goes to rescue her, the other blonde guy that was kind of, I think, on the rocks, it's kind of always been there, is work? We don't do work, noticed, and then just immediately followed them. It was oh, I'm going to not stay in this line anymore.
Right.
I'm going to I'm gonna go
He
this
ran
way.
out. Yeah, when he grabbed her to get her out, he ran behind him.
Yeah.
And then later on, as Wells is being attacked by a Morlock, that's the guy who like looks at his hand and like balls up a fist for the first time and like delivers like the death donkey punch to one of the Morlocks, because he literally hits that thing and it bounces off of Weems or Wells, and that dude falls against the rock, and that's the one that spits out blood and dies. And I was like, dude, how did you hit him?
Was that the one? I thought it was the one that.
Yeah, it's the same guy. It's that I think they only had one like Eloy guy who actually had like an actor's card, and that's the one guy who got all the lines, maybe two. But yeah,
Because I remember when a little later he goes back in the scene, and I thought the Eli the Morlock that got turned into bone was like the one that tried to grab him on the machine, and he just like kicked it.
That's the one,
and like was like
that one just falls. That is the one that Wells knocks off of him as he's trying to as he's trying to get in his machine.
Yeah, okay.
But during
gotcha.
the big fight scene with all like the 1960s like wrestling moves that he was doing, which I love, that like it reminds me of every like fight in the original Star Trek series. Like it's that kind of fighting. I love watching that shit on TV.
My favorite thing in old school fights, and I almost wish they would bring it back, is when the hero like puts out the straight arm, left or right, doesn't really matter. And it's kind of like he's got him up by the collar a little bit. And instead of like, getting all up in his shit and like, intimidating, it's the one where like he pushes him back and then like cocks it so his like elbow is like down by his hip and like his whole body leans, and then he just like fucking throws his
haymaker
thunderous straight right at him. And I'm like, it's so slow, like that would never happen, but damn it if it doesn't like look cool in old school films when like the good guy just fucking rocks the bad guy like that.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah, so on his exploration of the down area or the underground area, he sees like where the Morlocks eat, and there's like all kinds of bones, so he realizes they're eating the Eloi. They're cannibals.
He goes, they've devolved to the lowest form.
Right.
Cannibalism.
I was like, wow, we're going against cannibals now too. Okay, well, that's I understand. We all know cannibals are bad. Was that a question before this movie was made? Was there like...
Yeah, I was like, man, cannibals are fucked up, dude, but like, I feel like there's lower people on the totem pole than cannibals.
I mean, they're not many, but yeah, I would put them on the same level as...
Like, honestly, if a cannibal wasn't a rapist or like a pedophile, I would trust the cannibal over a pedophile and or a rapist.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given. I mean, they're kind of all on the same level for me, but I would, if I'm having to pick of the three, yeah, I'll take the guy. Like, will you at least give me some warning or it's bad enough, but can you just eat like old adults? Right?
Well, because like it's a cannibal. I mean, like he's gonna eat, and like we're not talking about like some bloodthirsty
vampire,
ravaging human eating machine. Like the guy's gonna get full. Like, fucking give him a solid meal of a Tony or some shit, right? And just be like, hey, dude, I need you to fucking keep an eye on my kids for an hour. That guy would probably be the safest fucking dude to leave your kids with at that point in time. Like, he's got a nice Tony meal, and he's a fucking cannibal. It'll scare the shit out of anybody.
Right, are you full? Did you eat recently? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, well, come on, watch the kids. We'll be fine. We'll be back in an hour.
Yeah. Hey, man, you want to watch that game Sunday? I got some finger snacks.
Womp womp.
Literally finger snacks just for you there, bud.
Oh, man. Okay, so after our 60s fight moves, and one of the other Eloi, one of the male Elois fights back or helps him to win the fight, he lights. So we know that they're afraid of fire. So he has this torch that he's made. He gets it lit barely with his last match, of course. Waves him off.
Yeah, but let's talk about how he lit those two previous matches, like in the cave with the people, and their special effects for the match was that when the guy lit the match in this cave, I at first thought that he lit like an ethanol cloud and was like, oh shit, dude, he just fucking burned them all. That's insane for a 60s film. But no, it was them throwing a cover like over the screen to like make this match seem like it's the most illuminating match of all time.
Well, I think they were giving you, the cave was meant to be darker than could be filmed at that time. Like yes, watching the movie,
I get it. Yeah,
what you're looking at is what
just
the Eloi were seeing. How they saw that when the match flared up, that's what they were seeing. That's how bright it was to them.
Yeah, and I know, and like it's funny because it's so hard to like believe that little match was the one that caused like that insufferable amount of light for them, you know, at that point in time. Like when he got the torch, I would have been like, okay, I could see how that would really bother a bunch of light sensitive giant pupiled creatures right now.
Right.
But that little match on a thing that eats people is probably just gonna piss him off. Like, how did you make this brighter? You know?
Yeah.
But damn, dude, like if he didn't light that fucking match and they all just like scurried back to the wall.
And then like as after the fights, after the torch, all that stuff, then he having them all climb out of the all the Eloi that were taken in from the siren call that he's now liberated. He's having them climb up the exhaust vent. Then he lights whatever liquid was coming out of those pipes, and it's highly fucking flammable, and I have no clue what that was, but it was just flowing freely through the place, and he just lights it on fire as they're all leaving out the vents.
Yeah, I didn't know what that shit was either. I couldn't sort it out.
I also would love to know about the stunt where the one Morlock guy, like the stunt guy that did the one got lit on fire and was running through the place all on fire, and I was like, man, that's the 60s. Like, they pretty much just like got you wet and like they lit you on fire and then put you out.
Yeah, because the way he took off running, man, he ran straight into a corner. Like, there was nowhere for him to go.
Yeah.
Like, that dude was just on fire. They were like, hold on, cut! Go put him out!
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go put that guy out. I'm sure he'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as all the Eloi have escaped, he's climbed out. He's the last one out of the hole. He tells everybody, "Oh, grab wood, throw it in." So they like grab it, like throw sticks and shit to help the fire burn more down there. And then all of the exhaust vents, because it was like a field of them. There was like a dozen of them where we could see, and like they all explode. And like as they're running away, like it doesn't just explode. The miniature model that they film later explodes, and like it like caves in on itself, so it all like drops below the surface layer of the earth. It's crazy.
Yeah, which kind of makes me wonder, like, this universe makes me kind of like want it to be expanded. Like, I want to know about like I want someone to write like the Great Morlock War movie, right? And then like, is this the only tunnel? Because like at the end of, I think it was the remake, like they kind of pan out and you just basically see like a whole fucking countryside of like combustions like going off everywhere.
At the end of the remake, after he's killed the big boss, he's like, "Oh, good, I've won." He goes further into the future, and then you get like, because he's in a cave, and the cave does what it does in this movie at the very beginning. Is like when he's encased in the rock, the cave goes away, and he's like, "Oh, great, this is cool. Like, I'm out in the open now, everything." And then he looks around when he stops, and like it's a wasteland, and there's hundreds of the Sphinx style temples and them leading people in there to be killed and whatever. Like that's what happens in the second one.
That's right.
And it's one of those like bleak things. That's when he's like, "I'll just go back to my time." So, but for this one, the vents have exploded. They all cave in. He realizes now that like the Eloi don't have anybody to provide for them, so now he's like, "And I've made life for you guys a little bit harder than you're used to. You're gonna have to get your own food and all that shit." And he's having a conversation with Weena. Oh, they have gone from like flirt, like this is like straight up flirting, and I'm like, oh boy, man, like she's like 17, 18, and you're like 40 something. Not that I have a problem with that, but I kind of have a problem with that. Like it was,
you should have a problem with that.
I'm not allowed to have a problem with the 18-year-old, but I'm not sure when she turned 18. She turned 18 sometime during the filming of the movie, and they actually went back and reshot some of her scenes because this was her first feature film, and like she got better as shooting went on, so they went back and reshot some of this first stuff they shot with her because she got to be a better actress as they went along, which was that's kind of interesting. As he's about to get it on with her, one of the guys runs up and cock blocks him. And he's like, "Hey, the Sphinx is on fire, and we can see your time machine now." So like they haul ass up there, and this is where he actually had the lever in his pocket the whole time. I forgot to mention that when he first got there, he pulled the lever out so no one could like take his machine anywhere. Hey, That's good. It's like the club for your car, man. He's good. It works.
Like taking your old faceplate off your CD player in your car.
Right? Can't
fucking take the unit, you ain't gonna be able to use it.
That's right. And then so he runs in there as he's getting to his time machine. Morlocks attack him, and this is where he has to fight off 3 or 4. He kicks one of them against the wall, then looks like it knocks him out, but I guess it kills him because he doesn't ever move again for a long time. And he throws the knob into the driving knob into the machine and throws it forward and escapes the Morlocks who are attacking him. To watch that one decays. We see him decay there, and then he's like, "Oh shit! Like I went the wrong way," and he puts it in reverse. And he reverses it all the way. Like he doesn't stop back to where the fight was happening. He goes all the way back to January 5th, and I think he's January 5th, 1900. He's back at the turn of the century, back to his boys.
Yeah,
and it was cool because I was actually, as I was watching the movie, I was like, okay, if he lands right back in his laboratory, this movie has thrown all of its shit out of the way. But he didn't. He was in his garden, and I was like, I like that. I like the continuity of you are in that space when you time travel. So if you move the machine when you've landed in the future and you arrive back when you first started, you are in a different location, and if they had not put him in a different location, it wouldn't have made much sense. So it's good that they did that. It's good that the machine was stuck there in the garden, and it helps tell the story as he goes on, because then we pretty much see him getting into his house and then showing back up at the dinner right where we left off, and we're back to where we started the movie at the beginning. And
yes, correct.
And no one believes him, even to the point where Weena had given him a flower sometime earlier during their flirtatious father-daughter flirting that they were doing. And he had it in his pocket when he came back, and so he gives it to Philby, who also happens to be not only owns a department store, but his side hobby is apparently botany. Because he's like, you try to decipher what kind of flower that is, and you'll never find one. And Philby's like, no, I've never seen a flower like this. Like, okay, and it still doesn't convince the other 3 guys. They all 4 leave from the dinner. Philby comes as Philby loads the 4 guys, the 3 guys in the carriage. He comes back, and him and Wells have a heart to heart, and Wells says goodbye to Philby. He's like, I'll see you later, or not I'll see you later, goodbye. We will never see each other again. You've been a good friend, that kind of conversation. And Philby's saying bye to everybody. Wells goes back in the house. He's dragging the time machine back into the location it needs to be, into the laboratory. And then Philby heads back in looking for Wells to say one final, hey buddy, poker next week or whatever. And he hears the machine crank up, and he runs into the laboratory, and it's gone. Miss Watchet is there, and he's like, no, it makes perfect sense why he dragged it back in here, because the Morlocks were in there, but out here is the person he's going back for. And in here, which is outside of the Sphinx, is the person he's going back for.
Yeah, he basically paints the whole picture. He's like, I bet the Sphinx was here. This is where the wall was. He drug the machine back into here, so he lands on the other side. Yep. Blah 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 blah.
And he has gone to the future to help the Eloi create. He's given up on everything before then. He's like, it's just war forever.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming back, at least not apparently, and I'm going to go help the Eloi become, normal people again.
That dude's like, I'm going to go play God.
Yeah.
That's what that guy was
I'm going to go bang this 18-year-old. And then they come back, him and Philby and Miss Watchet come back in the house, and there's this conversation because he took 3 books with him. And the end of the movie is Philby asking, which 3 books would you have taken? That kind of thing. And then they had the whole, do you think he'll return? Hell, he has all the time in the world. It's like, yes, he does. Thank you for that last one. But I like the 3 books thing. I'm like, I wonder what 3 books I would take. It's meant to make everybody do that at the end of the movie. Like, I wonder which ones he took. But yeah, that was 1960s The Time Machine, and it was a good watch. If you haven't seen it, and you stayed on this long listening to us not talk about the movie as much as argue about time travel and faster than light speed, That's pretty awesome of you. And next week, we have the next 2 weeks planned out. So next week's podcast we will be tackling the 2014 movie Predestination with a who's in that one? Ethan Hawke is in that one. He's another one, kind of like the guy from the remake of Time Machine, who's kind of like, he's kind of creepy, but kind of normal. He's, what is it you said last week about the guy in the new Time Machine movie? About Guy Pearce. He's not ugly, but he's good looking, but he's good looking in an ugly way.
Yeah, he's attractive, but he's also creepy looking at the same time. Like,
I put Ethan Hawke in the same category as that.
Yeah, there was like a How I Met Your Mother episode where like one of them was dating someone and they held a picture and they're like, I can't figure it out about him. And they're like, what? They're like, is he happy? Is he terrifying? And like, I think Barney was like, I figured it out. And he comes in and he like covers the bottom half of the picture. And the guy's eyes are like fucking just menacing and like looking in. But then same picture, he like covers his eyes and it's like this beautiful smile. And it's like, like, that's why I feel so uncomfortable around him. Like Ethan Hawke is like one of those guys. Like he just like is a good actor and can do some great things. But then he also puts off this like weird reeking vibe of like uncomfortableness. Right. Like, even when he's acting, like, and he's, like, playing, like, the down and out guy, you're like, you never go full down and out, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you're just fucking taking it too far. Like, now you're just weird.
I never find myself rooting for him. Anything he's in, I'm like, I don't want to be on your side, bro. Like, whatever your thing is, like, no, even in like, that, what's the horror movie he's in? Like, I'm like, I don't, if you get killed, you probably deserve it.
Oh, Sinister?
Yeah, I think it's Sinister with
and then even like that race car movie he was in, like I think he was kind of like a bad guy trying to go great, and What's-Her-Face was in it. Doesn't matter because it's a bad movie. But he's like, but it's the same feeling. Like he's driving around, he's like supposed to help the day, and it's like she got in the wrong car kind of shit or something like that, and like you go
Getaway with Selena Gomez.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Oh boy, you watched that? That's
I think it was one of those movies that just came on, and I was like, "Oh, Ethan Hawke!" And then at the end of it, I was like,
"Oh, Ethan Hawke." Yeah. Right. So, anyways,
I think he also cheated on Uma Thurman, and Uma Thurman's like in like my top 3 of women I've always had a crush on. So that's
fuck
like
that guy.
That's already a ding on him. I'm like, how dare you, that beautiful princess?
Right. So next week is Predestination. I have not seen it. I watched the trailers today. I'm kind of stoked about it. It's another time. He's a temporal agent, so we're kind of going back to last week, like the time cop. He's literally a time cop, which is cool. I did see in the trailer, this depiction of time travel is you are actually exiting or appearing in a space that wasn't previously, you're not traveling in it all the time. So like when he travels, when he leaves, everything around him, when he winks out of existence, sucks in. Like it goes, like there's like a breeze that blows everything in a circle towards where you left. And then when you arrive, everything that around you blows outward because you weren't taking up space there, and now you've forced this mass into that space and it's pushing things away. It looks really fucking cool. Like I like the imagery when they time travel in this movie. So at least from the trailer that I saw.
Nice. That's cool.
So that was cool. I like the idea of that. But yeah, Predestination is next week. And then the week after will be Looper. And we'll take care of those 2 movies. And then I may make us watch Interstellar or Primer. I haven't figured out yet. That'll be like New Year's. You're going to have to sleep through one of them. I know. I started this movie 4 fucking times, man. Damn it. But we're slowly building.
Day 6 of Primer.
Right, yeah, right. We're slowly building to Star Trek Discovery Season 2 starts January 17th. We're going to cover as many time travel movies we can before then. They also, we know that Game of Thrones is in April as well. So they also announced when Season 2 of American Gods starts, and it's sometime in March.
I still got to watch Season 1.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a discussion you and I probably shouldn't have on the mic, but it would probably require us to do what we did last year with American Horror Story and Discovery, where they're going to overlap a little bit when it comes to the show, because I think they said that Star Trek Discovery is going to have 13 episodes, maybe 14. I'm not sure. And then I think it's going to overlap American Gods, but Discovery's not going to end. It'll end before Game of Thrones starts. We'll either have a break or we'll be overlapping shows, which may kill us because that was a rough few weeks when we were doing 2 shows at a time.
I'm not doing 2 shows at a time. We'll just pick one.
Then we'll just skip American Gods. Then I'll
just watch time. American Gods. That's cool, man. Like Neil Gaiman. Sorry, homie. I love your shit.
Right. So, all right. Anyways, that is it for us this time. We hope you had a good day, afternoon, or evening, or a combination of those 3 with how long this was. And we thank you all the time for listening and tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week. See you then.
Hey, see you guys.